We the jury in the above entitled action find that
What's going on, everybody? How you doing today? Here I am in Brentwood, California, and after 5 years of being on YouTube, I'm finally covering the Nicole Simpson, Ron Goldman murders. I've been working on this for a long time and thinking about the proper way to do it. There's many parts, many components to this case. I think we all know most of them, or know something about them, and they're also referred to as the O.J. Simpson murders. Now, right away, I'll say a few times I may slip and say O.J., he was acquitted of the murders. However, all the evidence does point to one perpetrator, which would be O.J. Simpson. And I know there is a book that was out not too long ago that put forth a different theory that O.J.'s son was the murderer. And a lot of people believe that as well. That book has been thoroughly debunked, those theories. You can look into that more yourself if you like. What I believe is, well, I'm going to tell you as we go. But let's just say, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. But a glove like that is going to shrink over time with moisture and things like that. And O.J. Simpson, while not a great actor, he was an actor struggling to put on that glove. All the evidence points to one person. The story starts here. And I may have already messed up, and I may have referred to Nicole as Nicole Simpson. I'm going to try to refer to her as Nicole Brown. And it was on June 12th, 1994. Nicole Brown and her family were here at Paul Revere Middle School for a dance recital by her daughter Sydney. It's known that O.J. came here and sat behind the Browns and apparently talked to them. But some people say he never came here. I'm not sure. I can't say for sure that he did come to the dance recital, but I'm pretty sure he did. And he left angry from here. This is in the afternoon of June 12th. He went back home to his home on Rockingham, where we're going to go. And apparently he was mad because Nicole was wearing a very tight dress and wouldn't allow him to go out for dinner. They were separated this time. And to give a little backstory, O.J. was a very, very jealous man and very abusive towards Nicole. Waiting for this light to change here, if it's going to change. So the gentleman that was staying at O.J.'s house, his house guest, Cato Kalin, stated that O.J. was very, very angry when he came back for this dance recital. But it was in here. And it looks like they're filming some sort of movie today. There's movie trucks everywhere and a crane set up. So I'm not sure what they're filming here. But inside there's a recital, not a recital hall, there's an auditorium. And that's where the recital was held. So the story began here. O.J. left here quite angry. Like I said, I've read many reports on the case. Only one kind of said that he maybe showed up. So I want to put that out there. But it's pretty much documented that he was here. But this is where Sydney's dance recital was held. So here it is right here. I can't get onto the property right now because they are shooting a feature film with some pretty big actors in it. And this is the school. This is Paul Revere Middle School. And it looks actually like that might be the auditorium right there. It's hard to tell. But they went out for dinner after this to a restaurant called Mezzaluna, the Brown family. OJ, like I said, was not invited. That restaurant no longer exists, but the building does, and we're going to go there right now. It's top secret what they're filming here, but I'll tell you what they're filming here if you promise not to tell anybody. Okay? Ready? Shh. There's an actress named Margot Robbie, and she's playing a doll in a new movie. A doll that many girls and some young boys play with all their lives. She has a boyfriend. She's a dream house up in Malibu. That's what they're filming here. This would be the high school they're using. This would be the junior high they're using as the high school. There you go. All right, now back to OJ. So this is the former Mezzaluna restaurant here in Brentwood on San Vicente. This is where Ron Goldman worked as a waiter, and the Brown family came here afterwards to celebrate Sydney's dance recital. I've read that Nicole had the rigatoni that evening, and her mother left behind a pair of sunglasses. Nicole called later that night to see if they could find the sunglasses, and they did. And Ron Goldman, who lived not too far from Nicole Brown, said he would take them over to her place. Now we're going to go to Ron Goldman's apartment. I'll show you another few shots of this building. Literally a 5-minute walking distance from the restaurant is where Ron Goldman lived, and this is where he came home that night, changed his clothes to make the walk over to Nicole Brown's house, to her condo, which is another 5-minute walk away. And this is his apartment right here. This is where Ron Goldman lived. So, to get from Ron Goldman's house to Nicole's, which is right there, is literally a 5-minute walk. It's about a minute drive. Straight down the street that Ron Goldman's house is on, across San Vicente, onto Bundy Drive. And it's right here. Now, I was here the other night. I took some video to show you what the area is like at nighttime, because it is quiet, it is dark, and just to give you a feel for what it's like around June in Brentwood at that time of night, around 11 o'clock. Now, there's not a chance that everybody that is driving by right now or living in these houses sees somebody with a camera here, like I have, and doesn't know what they're up to, what they're filming. It's a morbid tourist attraction, but this is it. This is Nicole Brown's former condo, right there. The entryway has changed. It is now over here. It used to be right there. And even the stairs that are in the back, Nicole was found at the bottom of the stairs. They've been moved as well. On the evening of Sunday, June 12th, 1994, Nicole Brown, 35 years old, was stabbed to death outside her home, along with her friend, 25-year-old Ron Goldman. Her body was discovered shortly after midnight on June 13th. She was lying in the fetal position in a pool of blood. An autopsy determined that Nicole had been stabbed 7 times in the neck and scalp and had sustained a 14-centimeter long gash across her throat, which had severed both her left and right carotid arteries and breached her right and left jugular veins. The wound on Nicole's neck penetrated 1.9 centimeters into her cervical vertebrae, nearly decapitating her. She also had defensive wounds on her hands. During a reconstruction of the events, the police came to believe that Ron Goldman had arrived during or shortly after Nicole's death. Ron's family believed that Goldman died trying to save Nicole from her attacker, and he was the man eyewitnesses heard shouting that night. The Los Angeles coroner performed an autopsy on Ron a day after the crime on June 14th, and it revealed the nature of how he was killed. The report specified that Goldman was stabbed multiple times with a sharp object, and the gruesome details demonstrated just how depraved his murderer was. Ron Goldman endured stab wounds nearly everywhere. He had injuries to his neck, face, ears, chest, thigh, hands, forearm, and abdominal area. The autopsy report highlighted that while some of these injuries would have been non-fatal, the stab wounds to his neck and torso were what ultimately led to his death. The coroner noted that there was damage to a major neck vein as well as his lung. The internal bleeding that Goldman had in his abdomen also left critical wounds. But the report did show that Goldman did not die without a fight. The autopsy explained that Goldman had dozens of defensive wounds, mostly found on his hands, face, and upper body. These discoveries meant that he had fought hard to live. Nicole Brown's neighbors testified that they heard barking coming from outside throughout the night, beginning around 10:15 p.m. Around 10:55 p.m., a dog walker who lived a few blocks away from Nicole came across her Akita dog barking in the street outside her home. The Akita, whose legs were covered in blood, followed the man home. He tried to walk the dog back to where he found it, but the dog resisted. Later on, he left the Akita with a neighboring couple who offered to keep the dog overnight. As the dog was agitated, the couple decided to walk it back to where it had been found. Around midnight, as they reached the area where the Akita had been found, the dog stopped outside Brown's home, and the couple saw Nicole's body lying outside the house. Police were called to the scene and found Goldman's body near Brown's. A single leather glove found outside O.J. Simpson's home matched a glove found at the crime scene. In preliminary DNA tests, blood found on the glove was shown to have come from Simpson and the 2 victims. After his arrest, further DNA tests would confirm this finding. O.J. Simpson had a wound on his hand, and his blood was a DNA match to drops found at the Brentwood crime scene. Nicole Brown Simpson's blood was discovered on a pair of socks found at O.J.'s Rockingham estate. Shoe prints in the blood at Brentwood matched Simpson's shoe size, and later were shown to match the type of shoe he owned. Neither the knife nor shoes were found by police. It is assumed that the killer parked his car in this alleyway and entered through the gate on the left. So I'm standing outside of where OJ's house used to stand. There's a new house built on the property. It is huge. There's a giant wall all around it. And here's where he came. It was about a 7-minute drive from Nicole Brown's condo to get to this location. I say about 7 minutes. And at nighttime, probably even less. This is high traffic during the day. But at night, 5 minutes, maybe. A lot of twisty little streets. We're high up in Brentwood now. This is, you're looking at some big ritzy houses here all around. And a dog. Alright, I'm going to show you what I can show you. There's not much, but I'll show you some aerial views and some footage of what the house used to look like. With the murders estimated to take place roughly around 10:15 p.m., at 10:25 p.m., a limousine driver arrived at O.J. Simpson's house here to take him to the airport for a flight to Chicago. His house guest, Cato Kalin, at 10:40 p.m., hears 3 loud thumps on an outside wall of his room. The limousine driver buzzes the intercom several times but does not get any response. He then calls his boss and tells him Simpson is not home. He is told to wait until 11:15 since O.J. Simpson is always late. Shortly before 11 p.m., O.J. Simpson sees a figure in the distance, 6 feet, 200 pounds, walking across the driveway toward the house. Cato Kalin goes to the front of the house to check on the noise. He sees the limousine driver at the gate. Several seconds later, the limo driver again buzzes the intercom and O.J. Simpson answers. He says he had overslept and just gotten out of the shower. At 11:15 p.m., O.J. Simpson puts his bag in the limousine. At 11:15 p.m., the limousine leaves for the Los Angeles airport. At 11:35, it arrives. 11:45 p.m., O.J. Simpson leaves on an American Airlines flight to Chicago. And at 12:10 a.m., the bodies of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman are discovered outside her condo. Around 5 a.m., 2 detectives arrive at O.J. Simpson's house, Mark Furman and Philip Vanatter. The detectives examine an apparent bloodstain on Simpson's Ford Bronco. About 5:40 a.m., Detective Furman decided to jump the wall in order for police to get inside the estate. Once on the grounds, the detectives awaken Simpson's daughter Arnell, who is staying in the guest house. She takes the police to the house and telephones Kathy Randa, her father's longtime assistant. At 7:30 a.m., O.J. Simpson's house is declared a crime scene. On June 17th, a warrant was put out for O.J. Simpson's arrest, but he refused to surrender. Just before 7 p.m., police located him in a white Ford Bronco being driven by his friend, former teammate Al Cowlings. Cowlings refused to pull over and told police over his cell phone that Simpson was suicidal and had a gun to his head. Police agreed not to stop the vehicle by force, and a low-speed chase ensued. Los Angeles news helicopters learned of the event unfolding on their freeways, and live television coverage began. As millions watched, the Bronco was escorted across Los Angeles by a large group of police cars. Just before 8 p.m., the dramatic journey ended when Cowlings pulled into the Rockingham estate. After an hour of tense negotiation, O.J. Simpson emerged from the vehicle and surrendered. In the vehicle was found a travel bag containing, among other things, Simpson's passport, a disguise kit consisting of a fake mustache and beard, and a revolver. 3 days later, Simpson appeared before a judge and pled not guilty. And now that I've shown you the locations of most of the locations having to do with this case, the trial was held in downtown Los Angeles, of course. And like I said, O.J. Simpson was acquitted, but he was found guilty in a civil lawsuit brought about by the Brown and the Goldman families. Now we're going to go visit the graves of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown. They're far from each other, they're far from here, but we're going to go. And standing outside of O.J.'s former estate, it's huge. It's huge. It's wild. The jury was here looking around. It's crazy that so much of the crime of the century, it was called at the time, took place right here. Not the actual crime itself, you know what I mean, but like so much. The Bronco chase ending here, like I said, with the jury coming here, the driver waiting outside for OJ. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. But let's go pay our respects to the victims of this horrendous crime. Let's go. So I should add that Find a Grave, if you're looking for a grave, is a great resource, and usually it's correct. They place a pin towards where the grave is. It says it's down below this tree. You're gonna come in through the main entrance, in your first left, second right. Look for this big tree, but he's actually laid to rest behind the tree. Ron Goldman's right here. It reads, "Loving son, brother, and friend, Ronald Goldman, July 2nd, 1968 to June 12th, 1994. And then in the small print here, "Sometimes when we're alone and lost in thought, and all the world seems far away, you come to us as if in a dream, gently taking our hands and filling our hearts with the warmth of your presence. And we smile, knowing that although we cannot be together for now, you're always close in our thoughts. Missing you now, loving you always." So this is north of Los Angeles, and we're going to go south now, a couple of hours, to Lake Forest near Irvine, California, and visit Nicole Brown. So all the way at the back of Ascension Cemetery, behind the mausoleum, it's a very small cemetery. This is Lake Forest, California, right beside Irvine, Laguna Beach area, and south of Anaheim. About a good 2 hours away from Ron Goldman's grave, south. It's the final resting place of Nicole Brown Simpson and her parents. And I forgot that actually Simpson was written on the grave. I think that might be for her kids because they have his last name. You see some flowers, balloon left here, honored all who served. This is for her father, and candles and some makeup. Wow. Yeah. And as I'm walking away from Nicole's grave, just over there, just behind this outdoor mausoleum. Rest in peace, Nicole. Rest in peace, Ron Goldman. O.J. Simpson. Still a free man out there, and apparently he's searching for the real killer still. Okay, maybe give him a tip, go to IKEA, buy a mirror, look in it. That's my opinion. Yeah, pretty evil man, if you ask me. Let's hope one day he pays for what he did. Okay, rest in peace, Nicole. Rest in peace, Ron. And thank you for watching. Peace out.